The laundromat is awake when the rest of the street is asleep. Not loud awake, not lively awake. More like the way a person is awake when they can't stop thinking. The fluorescent lights don't brighten so much as declare they make every surface honest. The tiles show the plastic chairs show their cracks. Even the air looks clean in a way that feels slightly accusing. 3 machines spin 2, are empty, their doors open, like mouths that forgot what they were about to say. One is full, it thumps in a steady rhythm. That almost sounds like patience. Layla stands behind the counter with her sleeves pushed up, folding a stack of towels that don't belong to her. Someone paid for wash and fold, which is a polite way of saying, I'm too tired to handle my own life this week. She doesn't judge them, she understands them. Outside the street, lamps smear their light on wet pavement. Berlin in late autumn is not cruel exactly. It's just direct, the kind of cold that doesn't shout. It simply stays. Layla finishes the towels, ties them with twine and sets them in a neat pile. Then she notices the coat. It's draped over the back of a chair near machine 7, where people sit and watch their lives spin in circles. A long wool coat, dark gray heavy. The kind of coat that has survived more winters than most friendships. It shouldn't be there. Layla remembers every customer who came in tonight. The student with the paint-stained hoodie. The couple who argued quietly in a language she didn't recognize. The man who washed one single blanket and stared at the wall like it had answers. None of them wore a coat like this. She walks over, lifts it carefully, and feels its weight settle into her arms, like a story that expects to be carried. When she slips her hand into the pocket, she expects lint, a receipt. Maybe a few coins. Her fingers close around something smooth and cool. A small brass key tied to a faded blue ribbon. And with it folded so tightly, it's almost a secret, a piece of paper. Layla opens it, the handwriting is careful. Old-fashioned and slightly shaky. If found, please return H. Keller 3 stock links, do not leave at counter please. Layla reads it twice, do not leave at counter. She whispers, looking back at the counter, where her life is spent guarding other people's socks. The last word, please, lands differently than the rest, like it was added later. Like someone realized rules aren't as strong as hope. Layla holds the key in her palm. Small things can be heavy. On the street outside, a tram passes. Its windows lit like moving aquariums, carrying strangers who will never know what's happening in this laundromat right now. Layla looks at the code again, then at the clock above the door. She has 15 minutes until she locks up, and for reasons she can't fully explain, she doesn't hang the coat in the lost and found. She puts it on. It smells like cold air and old soap, and a hint of cedar, like a place you haven't visited in years. Layla takes the key and the note and turns off one of the lights. She locks the laundromat and steps into the street, with someone else's winter on her shoulders. Layla didn't always pay attention to small things. There was a time she moved through the world like she was late to a destination only she could see, collecting hours the way some people collect receipts. Proof that she was doing her best. When she first came to Berlin, she treated the city like a test. Not a romantic one, not a movie. A test of endurance. Her German was functional. Her smiles were practiced. Her days were stacked with work. Morning deliveries for a bakery, afternoon shift at the laundromat, and twice a week evenings, helping an elderly woman on the next street who needed assistance, bathing and cooking. She told herself it was temporary. Most people do when they're tired. Her mother called every Sunday, voice crackling through distance and worry, asking questions that were actually prayers. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping? Did you find good people? Layla always answered, with the kind of reassurance you give a child. About monsters? Yes, Mama. I'm fine, but she wasn't fine. She was moving constantly, as if motion could keep loneliness from catching her. It was only after the first winter, after she learned how Berlin goes quiet under snow, how the cold enters your bones without permission, that she began to notice things. How strangers held doors a second longer than necessary. How an old man in her building watered the same plant every morning. like it was a promise. How in the laundromat. People avoided looking at each other, but still listened. You hear a lot in a laundromat. Not because people confess, because the machines are loud enough to make whispering feel safe. Layla heard breakups disguised as, "I think we should try something else." She heard apologies that never said the word sorry. She heard laughter that sounded like relief, and she learned something she didn't expect. Everyone was carrying something, not always visible. Sometimes it was just a coat left on a chair. The building address on the note is only a 10-minute walk. Layla's breath turns to fog as she moves. The coat is warm. The key knocks gently against her fingers, inside her pocket, like it's reminding her it exists. She crosses a small square where fallen leaves have collected in wet piles. The color of old copper. A bicyclist rushes past. Silent except for the whisper of tires. She finds the building, pale stucco. Dark windows, a front door that looks like it has seen more than it wants to admit. 3 stock links, she reads again. 3rd floor left. The stairwell smells like boiled cabbage and radiator heat. Someone has pinned flyers to the wall. Guitar lessons, cat sitter. A handwritten sign asking if anyone has seen a missing parakeet. Layla climbs. Each step feels like a choice. At the 3rd floor, she turns left and faces a door with a small nameplate. Keller. She hesitates. "Do not leave it, counter." The note said, but it didn't say what to do. If the person behind the door didn't want visitors, Layla lifts her hand and knocks anyway. At first, nothing. Then she hears slow footsteps. A pause, the scrape of a chain. The door opens a few centimeters. An eye appears, gray-blue, sharp. Suspicious and very awake for this hour. "Yes," a man's voice says. Not unfriendly, just careful. Layla clears her throat. "Hello. Sorry, I found something." The chain stays on. The eye looks at her coat, then at her face. "How did you get that?" The man asks. It's not anger. It's something closer to fear. Layla slips her hand into the pocket and holds up the key by its ribbon. "I found the coat in the laundromat. It was left on a chair. This was inside." The chain remains for a moment. The man's eye closes, not like a blink, like a person pressing down a memory. Then the chain slides off. The door opens. The man is older than Layla expected. 70s, maybe, tall, but slightly folded at the shoulders, as if he's been carrying invisible groceries for years. He looks at the code and his mouth tightens, like he's trying not to show relief. "Come in," he says, and then adds almost as an afterthought, "Please." Layla steps inside. The apartment is warm, but not cozy. It's orderly in a way that feels defensive. Everything has a place, and everything seems to have been placed there years ago. A row of shoes lined up by the door. A small table with a bowl of keys empty, which feels like a joke. A living room with a sofa covered in a faded throw. On the wall, black and white photographs and frames. Not fancy ones, everyday ones. A woman with dark hair laughing at something out of frame. A child, maybe a girl, standing beside a bicycle looking proud. A younger version of the man in front of her, his arm around the woman like he was afraid she might disappear. Layla holds out the key. The man takes it with both hands carefully, like it might break. "Thank you." He says. He doesn't offer her tea. He doesn't ask her name. He just stands there holding the key, as if he's waiting for the part where she asks for money. Layla doesn't. She slips the coat off and hands it to him. "I didn't want to leave it at the counter." She says the note said not to. A flicker crosses his face. Surprise, then something softer. "Yes." He says quietly. "Good." There is a silence that grows. Layla should go, she knows it. She has work early, and the city is cold, and this man's apartment feels like it doesn't like strangers. But her eyes keep returning to the photographs. "Is that your wife?" she asks. Before she can stop herself, the man follows her gaze. He looks at the photo of the laughing woman. His expression changes, not dramatic, just unguarded. He says. And then after a pause, "That feels like swallowing something sharp. Her name was Margot." Layla nods. She looks like she laughed a lot. The man H. Keller Hans Layla Sumis lets out a sound that might be a laugh if it had more confidence. Yes, he says. She laughed even when it was inconvenient. He glances at Layla again. His eyes narrow slightly. You work at the laundromat? He asks. Yes. You are the new one, Layla almost smiles. It's been a year. He looks embarrassed, and Layla realizes he isn't judging her. He's judging time, like it betrayed him by moving without permission. He turns toward the coat draped over his arm. I forgot it, he says. I walked out without it, stupid. It happens, Layla replies. He shakes his head. Not to me. It's such a simple sentence, but it carries a whole personality. Not to me. Not to the kind of man who keeps his shoes lined up. Not to the kind of man who leaves notes with instructions. Layla doesn't know what to say, so she says the truth. It happened. But its backhand looks down at the key, thumb brushing the ribbon like it's familiar. Yes, he says softer. It's back. Layla turns toward the door. But Hans speaks again, and his voice has changed. Did you listen? He asks. Layla pauses. Listen. He lifts his chin toward the hallway, toward a small shelf near the coat rack. Layla hadn't noticed it before, but there's an old cassette tape there. The kind people used before music lived inside phones. It has a label, handwritten, M. Winter. Layla looks back at him. No. Hans studies her, like he's measuring whether she's lying. Then he lets out a breath. Good, he says. And then unexpectedly, thank you. Layla nods again, opens the door, and steps back into the stairwell. But as she walks down the stairs, the image of that cassette tape follows her. M. Winter. A message that survived. A message waiting for the next week. Layla tries to forget about Hans Keller. She tells herself it was a simple errand, a lost code, a returned key. But her mind doesn't accept that explanation. Because, when she's stocking detergent behind the counter, she catches herself thinking about the empty bowl of keys in his apartment when she's biking through cold air, with bread strapped to her back. She thinks about the way his face softened at the photo of Margot, and when she's helping the elderly woman she cares for, Frau Nowak, button her cardigan. She thinks about the sentence, Hans like said, a rule not to me. On Thursday evening, Frau Nowak falls asleep in her chair, the television murmuring to itself. Layla cleans, quietly washes dishes, folds a blanket on the shelf by the window. There's a picture of Frau Nowak with a young man, her son likely, both smiling too hard, like they're trying to reassure the future. Layla touches the edge of the frame. She knows too intimately now what distance does. When she returns home, her phone buzzes. A message from her mother. A photo of a pot of soup, captioned, I made too much again. Layla smiles, then stares at the screen a little too long. She doesn't reply immediately. Instead, she opens her closet. She doesn't know why. She pulls out her winter jacket and checks the pockets, as if expecting to find a brass key and instructions. There is nothing, but her fingers linger anyway. People think loneliness is loud, like crying, like begging, like empty rooms, but the kind Layla knows is quieter. It's the moment you almost call someone and then don't, because you convince yourself the silence is safer than disappointment. On Saturday late, the laundromat is almost empty. A man comes in with a duffel bag, washes clothes fast, and leaves without looking at anyone. Then, just before closing, Hans appears. He stands in the doorway, coat on shoulders still slightly folded. But his eyes alert. Layla straightens automatically, like she's being inspected. He approaches the counter and sets something down, a small jar of homemade jam. No label, just dark red inside cherry. Maybe I made this, he says. Too much. Layla blinks. I thank you, she says. You didn't have to. He looks mildly offended. I know. He clears his throat. Then he says, in the tone of a man ordering a repair in cassettes. Layla almost laughs a little. I need something. His jaw tightens. To play it, Layla glances at him. You don't have a player, he looks away. I did it, is gone. Gone the way things disappear when you stop checking for them. Layla thinks of the tape she saw in winter. Is it important? She asks gently. His eyes flash yes, then his face closes again. No, it's nothing. Layla knows that trick. The way pride tries to cover tenderness like a coat. She lifts the jam jar. Is this a trade offer? Jam for cassette help. Hannes looks at her, startled for a second. He looks almost amused maybe. He says as if he hates that the word feels good. Layla nods slowly, okay. She looks around the laundromat. There's a charity shop on Sonnen's, she says. Sometimes they have old electronics, or I can ask around. Hans's shoulders drop a fraction, relief trying not to be seen good. He says he turns to leave. Then pauses. My daughter. He says suddenly, as if the words escaped. Layla stays still. She would know how, he adds quickly. Like it's a complaint, like it's irrelevant. He doesn't look at Layla when he says it. Then he walks out, the bell above the door chiming softly behind him. Layla holds the jam jar and watches the street. Beyond the glass, the city keeps moving. But something inside her has shifted. Quietly, Layla finds a cassette player 2 days later. It's not pretty, it's scuffed. Missing a little foam on the headphone padding, and it smells faintly like someone's attic. But it works. She tests it with the blank tape at the shop. Listening for that familiar soft hiss, the sound of something waiting. That evening, she brings it to Hans's apartment. He opens the door faster this time, as if he was already standing behind it. He takes the player from her hands without comment. Layla steps in the apartment, looks the same. But there are small changes. A mug in the sink, a sweater draped on the chair. A newspaper folded open like it was abandoned. Mid-thought, Hans sets the cassette player on the small table, then retrieves the tape. He holds it up. He says quietly, Margot. Layla nods. He slides it into the player. Then stops, finger hovering over the button. He doesn't press play instead. He looks at Layla like she's suddenly part of the situation. And he didn't plan for that. You can go, he says. Layla should, but she hears something in his voice. A fear of being alone with the sound. I can, she agrees. Or I can stay in the hallway. Just in case it doesn't work. Hans's lips tighten, but not in rejection. In effort, he nods once. Layla doesn't sit, she stands near the door, giving him space without leaving him. Hannes presses play at first. Only hiss, then a click. And then a voice, Hannes's voice, but younger, warm. Unguarded Margot. The tape says softly, it's snowing again. Hannes's face changes as if he's been struck gently. Layla's chest tightens, not from drama. Just from the intimacy of hearing someone speak to the dead like they're in the next room. On the tape, Hans continues. I walked to the river today, not all the way, my knee complained. You would have called it lazy, but you aren't here to argue with me, so I want a faint laugh on the recording. The kind of laugh you make when you're pretending you're okay. I saw the baker you liked, the one with the poppy rolls. They changed owners, it's brighter now. New paint, it looks like it's trying too hard. He pauses. I miss you in the mornings. That's when it's worst at night. I can pretend you're asleep, but in the morning the silence is honest. Layla swallows. Hands in the room, stands perfectly still. Eyes locked on nothing, as if movement would break the memory. On the tape, the voice softens. I try to call her girl. Layla's gaze flicks to Hans's face. His jaw tightens. I tried. The recording repeats like a confession. But I didn't, because I didn't know what to say. That wouldn't sound like an excuse. A longer pause, the hiss fills the space like breath. I keep thinking if I say the right sentence, everything will shift back into place, as if life is a shelf. And I just pushed something crooked. His voice cracks slightly on the tape. I am proud, and I hate that about myself. Layla feels tears prick behind her eyes, but she doesn't let them fall. This isn't her grief, but it's close enough to touch on the tape. Hannah says quieter, if you are here. You tell me to stop standing in my own way. The recording ends with a soft click. The player continues to spin, his lingering like the room is reluctant to let go. Hanias doesn't move, Layla doesn't speak. Finally, he presses stop. Silence returns different now. Heavy but shared. Layla clears her throat gently. You made these for her. Hanias nods once I didn't want to, right? He says, writing felt final, and your daughter. Layla asks carefully, did she hear them? His eyes flash with something sharp. No, the word is too quick. Too absolute, then his shoulders sag. She left, he says, quieter years. Layla doesn't ask why she can guess. But guessing is disrespectful. Hanias looks at the tape in his hand as if it's suddenly dangerous. She was angry, he adds, like he needs the room to understand the shape of it. And I was correct. Layla almost smiles at the phrasing, not because it's funny, because it's tragically human. He looks up, you are close with your mother. Layla hesitates, the truth is complicated. I talked to her, Layla says. Hans' mouth tightens again. That is not what I asked. Layla exhales. I'm careful, she admits. Hannes nods, as if that answers something he already knew. Then so quietly, Layla almost misses it. He says, I should not have been careful. The room feels smaller. Layla looks at the photographs again. Margot laughing, the daughter by the bicycle. What's her name? Layla asks. Hans's eyes move to the picture of the child Annika. He says it like the name still fits in his mouth, even if the person doesn't. Layla nods, do you want her to hear these? Hans's face hardens, no. He says instantly, then he looks away and the truth slips out anyway. Yes, he says, barely audible. He presses his palm against his forehead, like he's tired of being himself. Layla speaks gently, as if approaching a frightened animal. Do you know where she is? He hesitates. Then he walks to a drawer, opens it and pulls out a piece of paper with a phone number written on it. The paper looks old, folded and unfolded many times. He holds it like it's a weapon he doesn't want to use. She sent it, he says. Last year, no message. Just the number. Layla's heartbeat quickens. A phone number is simple, but calling it is not. Hannes looks at Layla. If I call, she will hear my voice and remember everything she hates. Layla's throat tightens, or she says carefully, she'll hear your voice and remember you. He stares at her as if the possibility is painful. You don't know, he says. Layla nods, I don't. She pauses, then gently. But you recorded these because you wanted someone to hear you. Hannes's fingers curl around the paper. I recorded them because I couldn't say it to her. He says Layla's voice is barely a whisper. Maybe that's why she needs to hear them. Hans sits down slowly, as if his legs suddenly remember age. He looks at the cassette player. Then at the number. His pride stands in the doorway like a guard. But it's tired, will you? He begins and stops. Layla waits. He swallows, will you dial? He says finally, and I will speak. Layla's chest tightens again. A phone as a catalyst, a human voice as the real risk. Layla nods, okay. She says she takes out her phone. Hands slightly shaking and types the number. She doesn't press call yet. She looks at Hannes. Do you want me to say anything if she answers? He shakes his head quickly, no. No, just. He stops, his eyes flick to the photographs. Then back to Layla, his voice is small. Just don't let me hang up. Layla presses call, the line rings once. Twice, Layla watches Hans's hands. They're clenched on his knees. 3 rings for. She's about to think no one will answer. When a voice comes through. Hello, a woman, adult, clear, cautious. Layla holds out the phone. Honest takes it like it might burn him. For a second he can't speak. The woman on the other end says, sharper now, hello. WRSTA. Hannah swallows, it's Annika. He says, voice rough. It's me. Silence on the line. Layla can't hear what Annika does. A breath, a pause, the sound of distance, then Papa. The word is not warm, but it's not nothing. Hans's eyes close, and something in his face breaks open. Relief, grief, fear all at once. Yes, he says. It's Papa. A long pause. Then, Annika's voice controlled. Why are you calling? Hans's mouth tightens. Pride tries to return, but his eyes are wet. He clears his throat. I have something. Another pause. Annika exhales. Are you sick? Hans flinches, and Layla understands. This is how people protect themselves. They go straight to the worst possibility so they can brace. No. Hannah says too quickly, then softer. Not like that. What is it then? Annika asks, impatience cracking at the edges. Hans looks at Layla like he's asking permission. To be honest, Layla doesn't speak. She just stays. Hans's voice drops. I made recordings, he says. For your mother? Silence, then quiet. What? I made tapes, he repeats. After I spoke to her. Because I couldn't, his voice catches. I couldn't speak to you. Annika doesn't answer. Layla watches Hans's face. How he's trying to keep himself upright through the conversation. Finally, Annika speaks, and her voice is different now, smaller. Why didn't you call me? She asks. Hans's eyes squeeze shut. Because I was correct, he whispers. And I wanted that more than I wanted you. Layla's throat burns on the line. Annika breathes one shaky inhale. You're saying this now, she says. Controlled again after all this time. Hans opens his eyes. Yes. He says, I'm sorry. The word lands heavy, like it was expensive. Annika is quiet. Then, where are you? Hans says the address. His voice steadies as he speaks, like facts are easier than feelings. Annika exhales. I can come. She says, and then corrects herself like she hates hope. I can come next week, Wednesday. Hans's face tightens. Next week is both soon and far. Yes, he says. Okay. Annika's voice softens by a fraction. And the tapes, she says. I want to hear them. Hans's eyes flash with fear. You don't have to, he says quickly. I do, Annika replies firmer. Now I do. Silence again. Then quietly, Papa, yes. Don't disappear, she says. Hanes's lips tremble. I won't. He promises, though Layla can hear how fragile promises are. They end the call. Hans lowers the phone slowly, like it's heavier now than before, and stares at the dark screen as if it might light up with a correction. Layla doesn't speak right away. Some moments don't need words. They need witnesses, someone to keep the air steady while the ground shifts. Finally, Honest looks at her. His voice is raw. I should have done that years ago. Layla nods. Yes. She says honestly, then softer, but you did it now. Hans looks down at the tape in his hand, thumb rubbing the edge of the plastic, and for the first time since Layla met him, his pride seems quiet, as if it finally sat down and decided to stop guarding the room. The days leading up to Wednesday become strange, not dramatic, just charged. Like the air before a storm that never quite arrives. Hans begins coming to the laundromat at the same time. Each evening, sometimes he has a small bag of laundry. Sometimes he has nothing at all. He sits in the plastic chair by machine 7 and watches the drum rotate, eyes following the steady circle as if he can learn something from repetition. Layla doesn't ask why. She understands the need to be near other human life without having to participate too much, to borrow the warmth of voices and footsteps without having to explain your own. He brings her small things, always with the same stiff motion, as if offering a gift is a task on a list he doesn't want but must complete. A second jar of jam, a loaf of bread still warm, wrapped in paper that smells like yeast and flour, a bundle of onions from the market, as if she might forget to feed herself. Layla thanks him. He grunts, irritated by gratitude, and sits down again. But she begins to notice changes in him. Subtle at first, then hard to ignore. He repeats himself sometimes, telling her the same complaint about the tram schedule, the same story about Margot's laugh, the same remark about new paint on old buildings. He loses track of what day it is, then gets angry at the calendar like it betrayed him, tapping the square for Wednesday until the paper bends. He frowns at the coin slot on machine 7, as if it's a puzzle designed to mock him, turning a coin in his fingers even after the machine has already started. Once he stands up abruptly and pats his pockets, panic flashing across his face so fast, it looks younger than him. "My key," he says. Voice sharp, Layla's heart jumps, because she's learned what that key means. Not metal, but a thread tying him to intentions. She steps out from behind the counter, ready to help him search the floor, the chair, the lint trap, anywhere a small thing could vanish. Then Hannes freezes, stares at his own hand, and opens his fingers. The brass key is there, dangling from the faded blue ribbon. He had been holding it the whole time. He looks at it like it's a stranger, like someone else placed it in his palm as a joke. For a moment, his mouth works without sound, then he closes his fist around it too tightly and sits back down. Layla says nothing. She just returns to the counter and pretends to count coins, but something inside her tightens, a quiet worry she can't label without making it real. She thinks of Frau Noack in the next street, the way memory can fray at the edges, without anyone announcing it. She thinks of her own mother's voice, steady and far away, and the way distance can disguise changes, until suddenly they're undeniable. In the laundromat's bright light, hands look smaller than his coat, and Layla realizes waiting for Wednesday isn't just emotional. It's urgent on Monday night. Layla goes to his apartment to make sure he has food. She tells herself it's practical, neighborly, the same kind of care she gives Frau Noack. But when she climbs the stairs, the building feels quieter than usual, and her hand stays on the railing, as if it might need to steady her. Hands opens the door after the second knock. His sweater is inside out. He doesn't seem to notice. Inside, the apartment smells faintly of burnt toast. The kettle is cold. A pot sits on the stove with water inside, forgotten. The surface film dull and still. The windows are shut tight, but the air feels old, like it hasn't been traded with the street in days. Hans is sitting at the table with the tapes lined up like soldiers, each one spaced evenly. Labels facing forward. There are more than Layla realized. M spring, M rain, M Sunday, M your birthday. A few others she can't read from where she stands. The sight makes her chest ache, not because of death, but because of dedication. The way a person can build a bridge and never cross it. "You made all these?" she asks softly, lowering her voice as if the tapes are sleeping. Hans looks up, eyes tired, and nods yes. He says, "I talked to her because she was easy." Layla sits across from him carefully, as if she's entering a conversation that could shatter. "Easy," she repeats. Hans's gaze drops to the cassettes. "She never punished me for being late." He says, "She never held my worst day against me forever." Layla's throat tightens. She knows that kind of forgiveness, the kind that feels like space to breathe. "And Annika?" Layla asks. Hans's mouth tightens. Annika remembers everything. He looks up, eyes suddenly sharp, as if daring the room to disagree. "As she should," he adds quickly. "I gave her enough to remember." Layla watches him, a man who built his life on being correct, now facing the cost of it, like a bill arriving years late. With interest, "What will you say when she comes?" Layla asks. Hannah stares at the tapes, like they might whisper the right script. His fingers align one cassette, then another, correcting angles that don't matter. "I will say hello," he says finally. "And then I will try not to ruin it." Layla almost smiles, but her eyes sting. "That's a good plan," she says. Hans nods slowly, as if absorbing that it's allowed to be simple. That reconciliation doesn't require speeches, just presence. When Layla leaves, she walks home through a cold that smells like metal. She keeps thinking about the way Hannah said hello, like it was a complicated word. She thinks about her own silences, the ones she calls practicality. By the time she reaches her apartment, the decision is already in her hands. On Tuesday, she calls her mother. Not because she has new information, not because anything has been solved, simply because watching hands wait has made her feel the weight of time, and because time, she realizes, is the one thing no one can return like a lost coat. Her mother answers immediately. Layla, relief pours through the line like warm water. Layla closes her eyes. Mama. She says yes. My love, are you okay? Layla looks out her window at the street below. People walking with scarves, tight faces, serious shoulders hunched against the wind. A city full of strangers carrying groceries and secrets. I just wanted to hear you, Layla says quietly. Her mother is silent for a moment, and Layla imagines her standing in the kitchen, dish towel in hand, pausing mid-motion. Then her mother's voice softens into something like prayer. I'm here, she says. I'm always here. Layla swallows, throat thick. I know. She whispers, and for once, she lets herself believe it without arguing. Wednesday arrives like a hell breath. The morning is gray, the afternoon grayer, and the sky looks like it forgot what color means. Layla takes the day off the bakery route and tells her boss she has something to do. It's not a lie. It's just not something you can put on a schedule. At 4:30 p.m., she goes to Hans's apartment. He opens the door before she knocks, as if he's been standing behind it, listening to the hallway. He's dressed neatly. Clean shirt, sweater, hair combed, shoes polished. The kind of preparation people do when they're afraid to be seen in the wrong light. There, he says, almost relieved you came. Layla steps in and looks around. The apartment is cleaner than before, too clean as if he tried to erase evidence of living. The throw on the sofa is smoothed flat. The newspaper stack is squared. Even the air smells faintly of lemon cleaner. Sharp and unfamiliar on the table. 2 cups are set out, a plate of sliced apples. A small dish of cookies. The arrangement is careful. The way you arrange offerings when you don't know what else to give. Hans stands by the window, staring down at the street as if he can will a person into existence. His hands keep opening and closing, then forcing themselves still. What time? Layla asks gently. 5, he says. She said 5. Layla nods. And they don't talk much after that. Words would only circle the fear. The clock ticks loud in the apartment's careful silence. At 4:57, Hans goes to the bathroom, then comes back, then checks the hallway, then returns as if movement can keep panic away. At 5:01, he flinches at every sound. The pipes say neighbor's door. A distant laugh outside at 5:04. Layla hears it too, a buzz, the door buzzer. Hans freezes, his face goes pale, as if his body tried to leave before his courage could. Layla stands slowly, heart pounding. Hans doesn't move. The buzzer sounds again. Impatient, now go. Layla whispers, not unkindly. Open. Hannes's feet finally carry him into the hallway, and Layla follows, not letting him fall alone. He presses the intercom. Yes, he says, voice rough. A woman's voice crackles through. Papa. It's me. He closes his eyes, releases the door, and leans his forehead to the wall. She's here, he whispers. Footsteps climb, and Annika appears on the landing. She looks from Layla to Hans. Who is she? Hans swallows. She helped from the laundromat. Annika studies him. You look older. Yes, he says, and the old defense slips out. I had time. She exhales and asks to go inside. In the apartment, her eyes sweep the photographs and the tapes, then stop on the 2 cups. The apples, the cookies you prepared. She says, I didn't know what you like anymore. I like tea. His hands shake. He insists he's fine. She touches a tape. And your birthday? Then asks. Can we listen? He hesitates, then plays it. Hiss, click. His recorded voice fills the room. Annika cries. She asks why he spoke to her mother, but not to her. He admits he was afraid she'd be right, afraid he'd have to change. And now I'm tired of being the same. She notices Layla's part. Layla answers, because someone wrote, please. Hans thanks Layla and asks her to go. Annika stops her long enough to whisper, thanks to Layla leaves, closing the door gently, and the stairwell fills with low, imperfect voices. 2 days later, Annika comes to the laundromat and tells Layla that Hannes died the night before. Peacefully, with the tapes on the table and Annika's hand in his, she gives Layla the brass key and a cassette labeled L. Please that night. Layla unlocks the box she'd stored for Frauno and finds letters addressed to Annika and one more tape. And forgive him, she calls her mother, crying and promises she will come home.